Well, this is kind of like we were having a conversation. I've had this conversation twice recently, like once at the top of a waterfall with a stranger, and then once at a party with some people I didn't know. But we were talking about, like, you know, the music that when you're driving around with your parents or your dad or your mom right now, it comes on the radio and they look at you with a bit of pride and they're like, yeah, this is what I listened to when I was your age. This is what I listened to, you know. What makes a song that? Like, what music that's happening right now is going to become that in the future? You know what I mean? For when we're, like, when you're driving around with your kid and you look over and you're like, yo, this is what's going to last. Does that make sense?
Of course, yeah.
It's like a really interesting thing to think about, and I think that's basically what you're touching on, is like, what is this, like, it factor?
Yeah,
like,
there's I don't know. There's certain things that are just going to transcend the generation.
Yeah. I think it's genuine, like being genuine through your whatever your music.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, it's all. I feel like it's very subjective at the end of the day, because you know, there's plenty that, like, I like from my parents' era that they might even hate. You know?
Yeah,
it wouldn't have necessarily been pop, but it's not only was it not popular then, it's like, but it's not. It
yeah, but that's
sure as hell isn't popular now.
Yeah, so, but that's what you like from then. I'm saying, like, what was popular then that is going to last.
That is going to last for everyone.
Yeah, or in the popular lexicon. You know what I mean?
Okay,
and I think it's these themes that you're talking about, like you said with the Taylor Swift song. Like, you could play it in 1978 because it is, like, genuine. Like, that's just.
You're saying what?
She knows how to make it come across as, like, a genuine, because it's such a deep seated narrative in people.
Yeah, the deep seated narrative is what's the genuine part.
Of course.
Yeah,
but then you've got,
I don't know if,
you know, Great Balls of Fire by Jerry Lee Lewis. You know, not necessarily like a deep seated primal narrative that everyone.
But the
can
primal
relate to.
narrative,
but the primal narrative in that is
the feeling
1, 4, 5 just boogie. You know?
Yeah, the primal narrative in that
is that.
Yeah.
I think, like, almost. Yeah, it's like the genuineness isn't necessarily on the side of the, like, every time I talk to, like, pop songwriters, one of the things I hear a lot is, like, a big part of it is you write things that aren't your story. Yeah. You write things that are the listener's story.
Right.
And so, like, that's I guess where it's lining up. So it's not making necessarily just.
No, I wasn't saying it has to be genuine for me.
Okay.
It just has to be genuine for
like
the listener. So that just is something that resonates
in space, in the ether.
Yeah, it has to be. You have to be talking about something real, basically.
Yeah.
In some manner.
And I think that another big thing.
Oh yeah, Bruce Springsteen, he says.
Yeah, Bruce Springsteen was never a, I don't know, Harley rider, or was never a cowboy, but, you know, he sang about a lot of different things, and he just has that. What's it called? He has the ethos, the appeal to credibility, where he sings it, people believe it.
Yeah.
Not to mention, obviously, that kind of complements the songs being good to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, you have to have some sort of.
I probably should like chewing all this ice up in here.
Yeah, you have to have some sort of talent and, like, be a good musician. But the songs that people resonate with, for me, that last the longest, are the ones where I left some vagueness in it for, like, kind of like a Mad Lib, so that people can fill in their nouns and their verbs to the song, and then it becomes way more powerful.
I also think that, like, something that is sometimes tricky to accept is, like, there's a lot of, especially now, arbitrariness to what, like, there's so much amazing music that's constantly being produced. It's always coming out every day. 60,000 songs go up on Spotify every day. It's like, there's a ton of great music. Like, there's not enough people in the world, and they don't live long enough to hear it all. There's not enough hours to hear it all. Like, it's just like, that's just the nature of it. And I think that, like, that is sort of a strange thing when you're talking about, like, from a creative perspective, like, what makes something timeless. It's like, you know, there's a lot of things that, and there's a lot of things that, like, you know, do, coming back to the pop conversation, that do make it to the very top, that, like, at least on a personal level, like, I don't find that story existing in my universe already, that I can't latch onto it. And, like, obviously it's not, that music isn't for me, and that's doesn't mean it's bad music. But that's just something that, like, I mean, I know, like, I think about when I'm making music is like, to the extent that there's like the separation of making a song that has that thing where I can say like, this song is timeless for me, because there's no way to know whether it'll be timeless for a million Spotify listeners.
Yeah, it could end up being your own little gem.
There's no point.
There's no point. There's this sort of like
your process.
It does, but there's this sort of sense of like, does that X factor exist inherently? Like, it's like if a tree falls in the woods, like, and it's not even just about listenership, but like, does it make a sound? Like, just like in terms of like when you're making music, like injecting it with that, as much of that, like feeling that exists in your universe as you possibly can. Get it out there.
Be genuine.
Yeah.
I mean, so I've always kind of, this is like a loose thought, but a song has a feeling in it, right? It's like to make it a song, it has to have some sort of feeling. Like it has to have something, right? A good song has like 3 or 4 different feelings of something, right? And like you're kind of contrasting it, and it's basically like giving it 3D or like dimension, right? We're looking at it from different aspects. And a great like standout phenomenal song that people will continue to listen to has every conceivable feeling that the songwriter could think of for that song.
Oh, okay.
I thought you were gonna say that. I thought you were gonna say a good song has like 3 or 4, and a great song has 1.
No. I think like, well, it is 1, but it's like it has this feeling, but they put you in a position. It's like almost like AR, like augmented reality or like virtual reality. Like they've put you in a situation where you enter it, and so you are now experiencing every feeling that you could feel in this situation.
Do you feel like you can think of an example, just like maybe for the sake of
it's different for everybody. That's the problem. Like for you, it'll be different than it'll be for me. I'm trying to think. I'll think of an example here, probably while we're going. I mean, that Ryland Under the Apple Tree song is actually like has a pretty good. It's a Julian Lange song that like I'm With Her arranged.
Okay.
And wrote lyrics to. That one has a lot of feelings in it for a lot of people. I'll have to think of some more for a good example. I should have.
I feel like I could see where you're getting at.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's like it's this like the Mad Lib thing that I'm talking about. Like putting your song has to put someone in that position.
Okay.
For them, like it's so when you think about cinema, there's this thing called like the gaze or the view, and it's like what is being observed, and like through the whole creation of the cinema, it doesn't have to be like what the camera is focused on.
Okay.
It's like what is being observed, and like if you think about a song like that, like what is being observed.
Yeah.
You know, you can write the same song observing myself, like how I feel about it, and that's one song. Some songs need that, but like you were saying, like a corporate or pop songwriter will write a song from someone else's perspective for someone else to sing and for someone else to feel. Just like that is the craft of songwriting, like controlling the gaze inside the song. And like those are like when you hear those lyrics that like flip, like it flips the whole meaning of the song when you hear one lyric. Like there's probably one in Still Fighting It by Ben Folds. Like who's the guy from Wolfpack, Theo Capson. His new record Heartbreak Hits, Good to Be Alone is a song that has, for me, like a lot of feelings that I can feel, and like I can put myself in that situation.
This is deep in the science of it, right? I'm personally trying to relate. I'm starting to see it all fit together because I'm trying to relate it back to "You Belong with Me" by Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Right? So imagine how like even just the emotions are reflected through the instrumentation and the dynamics of it, where the verses start out and it's really subdued and sort of pizzicato, and it's sort of building the tension. But even what she's saying is like, I'm doing this, it's a Tuesday night, doing homework, I don't know what the word.
It's very mundane.
And then the chorus comes and it's this explosion of like, you can see it, and it's used now she's coming to proclaim that in this explosion of energy and sound that you belong with me. So it's exploring it from that. Yeah, and it's like it's almost like two different messages at one point. One where it's like, I'm subdued and I'm looking at you from a distance, and then there's this like raging declaration.
Yeah, it's like when you're looking at Sunny D over there, and then you get a glass of Sunny D.
Well, I think
you get to drink it.
I think it's like, like in songwriting, people always talk about contrast, and like you create contrast, the verse, the chorus.
I hadn't even thought of that really until now, to be honest with you.
It's like you need to
use it in your music.
It's sort of an automatic.
Some of these things are just like coming, like some of it's just become convention, and kind of put them in like second, just the kind of the dynamics between a verse and the chorus, and then the bridge that goes somewhere maybe. But that's like, I'd never really thought of it like that.
Think about like triangulation. Like, if you want to be able to locate an object, you need like multiple basically perspectives on it. You need 3 perspectives to be able to really know where it is and to like have a sense of it. And it's like or just dimensions, like, I think it's the same. It's like you need to explore, I guess like what you're saying of like multiple emotions or feelings, it's almost like the same feeling from multiple, or angles. Like from multiple it's the same.
Well, it's the same between emotions and feelings.
Yeah, I don't know how to phrase it. The same emotion from multiple feelings, maybe, or something. Well, like in order to create
the same feeling from multiple emotions. I feel like feelings are an aggregate of emotions.
It could be. In any case, the idea is like to create a realistic, believable, 3-dimensional, tangible, like emotional object. You need to provide a lot more than just one. You need to like create a human. Like, it's all about how do humans work, and how do you use the way that humans work to do that. Like, we don't experience anything from one angle. We experience it like the way that
people on the spectrum do
formulate our understanding of the universe. Well, I think everyone is experiencing to some extent things from different ways. I don't know. I guess I can't really speak to that particular thing, but in general, the idea is.
Sorry, I wasn't disagreeing. I was just experiencing it from my angle.
Right. Is that like you need contrast. You need these different things to be brought out in a song. You need the quiet chorus. That was a good one. Yeah. The bubbles. You need, or like, like either the big chorus and the quiet verse, or the quiet verse, the quiet chorus and the big bridge, or however it's working. Like, you're creating, and I think that's why that, like, obviously there's many different types of forms for a song, but like the verse, the chorus, and the bridge format, which has these sort of 3 perspectives, is so big, because you're triangulating that feeling, and you're creating something that someone's going to be able to experience the way that they experience the rest of their life, which is in the human way.
One of my you brought that back to home real nicely.
Well, he went on a triangle, hit 2 points, and then came back to the original point.
I'd say.
I mean, one of my songwriting professors, Brian Laidlaw, was talking about, in your verse, you just observe something, you talk about it, how it happens. In your chorus, you talk about how like that makes you feel, or like how it feels, not how it makes you feel. And then in the bridge, you talk about how that makes you feel, like how you actually feel about that. And for a verse chorus format, I mean, I think kind of
there's so many ways to do it though. You can also totally flip that.
You can
do the opposite,
fully flip that. But when you're thinking about writing for like very corporate stuff, that's oftentimes what people do. Yeah, like the observed rule is that. But I think the reason I was talking about like observing something from multiple angles, and like that's how you create an effective song. It's like how scientists figure out that there's a black hole there. not because of seeing the black hole, but because of how everything else
observe it.
Yeah, like how everything else reacts to it. And that's how your brain really figures out stuff. You know, you don't know something, but you notice everything is being affected in a way that leads you to believe that that's occurring. Right? So if you do that in a song, then you can emotionally take people to a place with your music and with your song that they cannot deny what you're saying lyrically. Like, they can try, but like they cannot deny that. And that's a huge responsibility as a songwriter. People
are so sensitive to that like, we think that we're seeing one thing, but we're actually seeing the thing in interaction with its environment. Yeah. The example that I always think about is cars in video games.
Yeah.
Have you ever noticed how, like, they're getting a lot better at it, but you see a car in a video game and you can tell, like, even with great graphics, there's something about the way that a car moves, especially if you see it turning
erratically,
that is impossible to deny that it is like computer generated, because there's
too smooth.
Something in the, like, I mean, I don't know why this comes to mind as the example, but there's something, like, there's so much complexity when you have something like that and it's exerting such force and it's moving, and we're clearly we must be taking in so many minute details that are telling our brain what's happening. And when you see in a video game, they're of course doing an amazing job modeling it, but it doesn't, you're not going to get, or human motion or something, like, you're not going to be able to like, at this point, I'm sure it'll be possible eventually, but like, you're not going to model that. You can't model all the other things that we're seeing. Even if you can get technically you could match the movement of the car. There's so much else. Who knows what it is? And like, well, just like the same thing is, like, I think that's one of the things that, like, sometimes someone writes, sometimes you hear a song that just isn't, it's you don't believe there. You, because it's like, there's something is not believable to your, like, to your brain.
No, to your heart.
To your heart, to your brain.
Your brain is hearing it because it has all the elements it needs, but it doesn't fucking do the thing.
So would an example of something to that effect be, like, maybe if you were to listen to, like, a really pop country song, perhaps, where you hear everything lines up, everything's in tune, all the chords are good, what might be a good melody, but you just don't. It doesn't.
Maybe for you, I think it's different in every genre.
Dude, talk about guilty pleasure songs. Though.
Yeah,
but I think that like, this is the attention. This is where the attention to detail comes out. Like, for example, if you're, we're making a record. I was producing this record a few weeks back in the studio, and I wanted the band, like, you can make a record in many ways, but for this thing, I wanted the band to be playing together. Like any of the songs we did with Isabel. And like, we were recording them in isolation. So in other words, you're recording the drums and you're recording the bass and you're recording the guitar and you're recording the vocals all and the keys all in the same take. Okay. When possible. We weren't able to do it for everything. When possible, but you weren't going to hear. We had it, like, set up so that there was none of the drums were going to be in the vocal mic. In other words, like you know, you have it set up so that you can isolate that and cut it and whatever. Yeah. And so on some level, you could say, why do you do it like that as opposed to just overdubbing? And there's one reason, which is it's way more time efficient. And there's another reason, which is that even if everyone is playing to the same click track and you get the drummer first and then you get the bass player and then you get the guitar and then you get the vocals, or however you choose to do it, and it's like you're doing it consecutively and they're playing technically with each other, there's some believability that comes from actually having the people listen to each other in real time, even if you don't. And like, even like, you know, it's like, oh, the guitar hit a weird note here, so I'm going to switch out for a different guitar take, and I can because it's in isolation. So it isn't technically happening. This note wasn't the same note that was being played in real time with the drummer. Even so, like, I think that it's like the type of thing where in any given moment, it's like its presence or absence is not a defining factor, but over the course of a whole record, having this build up, these like tiny details, the like 0.2% of added cohesion and believability and just humanness ends up having something that no one's going to listen to it and go, oh, like that was or wasn't recorded in the same room, like, you know, or like at the same time, any like normal non-critical listener, but it might make them go, wow, I really believe this song. Like, in other words, this moving car has all the things that are moving just right so that my brain is like telling my heart, yeah, this is a real car.
Yeah.
Versus like maybe that's not the case. And that's not just to say that, recording every song should be recorded live together. Like, I think they're both really good ways, and there's many reasons to do it each way. But like when that's what the song calls for, that is going to be that tiny detail. Or could be.
I tend